Welcome to Monday Night Live. In true Amos tradition, we bring onto this program men and women who are having a real impact on our community. This program is no exception. For the next hour, we're going to be talking to Bob Rowe. We're going to be talking about music. We're going to be listening to some music. We're going to be talking about poetry. And probably most important of all, we're going to be talking about caring. We're not just going to be talking to a pop star tonight. We're talking to a man who cares and uses his writing and his music to make contact with people, and yes, I think to heal. Without more ado, I have to cut my lengthy introduction and introduce the star of the program, Bob Rowe. We have a different spelling in our names. You have a W, I have none. I'm the fishy Rowe, R-O-E. You're the well-rounded Rowe.
Well, it's great to be here, Keith. I'm telling you, and I think your introduction was way beyond eloquent. It was absolutely beautiful. And Yehudi Menuhin was one of my favorite people and a magnificent artist, and what great quotes to start off our talk.
Yes, he meant what he said. Mm-hmm. He said we found mastodon bones in Siberia in the ice, and with these 35,000 years old, and with them were flutes, bone flutes, mastodon bone flutes.
Isn't that amazing?
With the holes drilled into them. He talked about being on an island somewhere, only bees, no inhabitants, just bees, thousands and thousands of bees. And he had this incredible ear, the kind of ear you've got, tone, you know. And he said he heard this bee humming. He said that's the fundamental note. Then another bee came along and hit a third up. I thought, imagine. And then a third bee came halfway between the two of them in tone. He said there was a perfect chord. The bees can do it.
That's incredible.
Certainly humans can do it. Have been doing it for 35,000 years or more. And here we are right up to the minute. You've probably got a performance tomorrow.
Got a lot of performances. It's a blessing. You know, talking about music, though, it really is a common thread that weaves through all of our lives. You know, and in our work with the elderly, we talk to so many activity directors in nursing homes that vehemently tell us how so many of their residents don't want to come out of their rooms for anything in particular, but when there's a music program, they beat a path down to the room where the music's being held. And there's something about the music that stirs our souls and comforts our hearts and makes us feel connected as human beings. And that's really a gift that all of us have at all ages.
George Bernard Shaw was an opera critic at one time before he became known as a writer, and he said you can move people with words, you can move people with spectacle, you can move them with music. When you put all three together, it's just not playing fair.
It's pretty overwhelming.
And you put words and music together. We're not saying we can dispense with words, we're saying putting them together. But before we get to the technicalities, the meat of all the good work you do,
thank you.
Just talk a bit about yourself. Tell us, you were born...
Well, I was born
not far from here?
Well, not far from here. I was born in Battle Creek, which is just 30 miles approximately east of Kalamazoo, and kind of migrated over here about 30-some years ago and adopted this as my hometown and my adopted town. And right after high school, I started out, I always wanted to be a performer. You know, talking about that music bug again, you know, the music bee. Right from the time I can remember, well, my mother tells stories about how when I was little and I had two different illnesses at once, I think mumps and chicken pox, and I was deathly ill. And I would sit in a rocking chair and listen to old Mitch Miller and Peter, Paul, and Mary records and just rock back and forth for hours and sing the songs. And she said she knew right in that instant that I was going to do something with music because I was so overwhelmed by it. I heard it in a way she felt that other people didn't. You know, it kind of went through and through me and permeated my whole being. And so I always knew, you know, when I was growing up that I'd have to do something with music. And I went to a Catholic school for 12 years, and which was focused an awful lot on, you know, reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I felt very much as a loner and left out because I really didn't fit into the left brain way of approaching life. I was a highly creative person even before I started doing music. And so my mother got me going on piano lessons, and I studied piano for a number of years and Probably, I think I was in my 10th grade in high school, and I was really into folk music. I was listening to the Peter, Paul, and Mary records and Joan Baez and Judy Collins, and so I bought my first guitar with my first paycheck at a regular job and sat down and started emulating all the chords and literally taught myself how to play the guitar. And after high school, I went around and pestered every club owner in Battle Creek and around the area to let me perform. And I wasn't too hot in those days. I mean, you know, I knew about 4 folk songs, and they were all very somber and not very upbeat. But somehow I managed to get hired in a few places, and it just kind of went from there. And yet I had not an emptiness, but for lack of a better word, you know, a part of me that wasn't really being addressed and just being an entertainer. I loved the audiences and I loved the applause and I loved performing, but I really somehow wanted to do something more with it. I wanted to touch people with my music, you know, touch their hearts. And so I started volunteering in the local nursing homes as I traveled around playing the clubs in different cities like Chicago and Detroit and New York and Des Moines, Iowa, and wherever. And right then I just, you know, was smitten by the ability to marry music with an audience that was so down and so withdrawn from society. And to see their faces light up and to see the changes in them from the beginning of the program to the middle to the end was astounding. And that's then I decided I had to do something more permanent with this, and that's when I decided to start a nonprofit organization.
So how, when you
Talk
have
about a lot long-winded opening.
No. This is your program. I wore red tonight because I thought maybe you'd be wearing something really bright, and I ought to get rid of my dowdy stuff.
Well, I wore my dressiest vest and white shirt outfit here because, you know, as I tell everybody, when I'm on a talk show and the host introduces me, I just tell them that I'm very grateful that they let me out of the nursing home to come down here tonight. So I've been doing a lot of radio interviews with Sirius and XM Radio where they call me and I do the interview over the phone. And oh, it's hog heaven. I can sit there with my coffee and my bathrobe and my slippers, and I don't have to go anywhere. So I dressed up to come down here tonight. So.
Well, thank you very much.
Actually, see, we stand out. They'll know which row is which tonight this way.
Despite my bright red, I can fade out of the picture if you want to look at the camera and talk, because you mean what you say. You don't talk just for the sake of talking. You have a message all the time. Comes across.
It's just me. I mean, I feel very fortunate because I look around me at so many of the young people today who seem directionless, you know, like rudderless ships. And, you know, they want to have all the things all of us want. You know, they want a good home, they want a family, they want financial security and all that. But there's so much more to life, and they know that, you know. And I'm always saying to them, you know, I'm lucky. You know, what about passion? What about going for something that you really winds your crank and really makes you feel excited to get out of bed every morning? You know, that's quite the secret that I see a lot with our seniors. You know, the seniors that thrive in their older years are the ones that really have something to get out of bed and look forward to.
They keep their marbles going.
Yeah. So I find the secret of happiness, the secret of success, and what we were talking about before we went on camera, emotional quotient, which has been a popular subject, is the ability to find something you feel passionate about and communicate that.
And you began to, I mean, this is amazing. When you had mumps and chickenpox simultaneously.
I think it was that. It was a few different awful things at once.
Well, I can remember having mumps, and I was sitting on a toddy pot, so I was very young when I had mumps. But I can remember rocking backwards and forwards.
Now, were you listening to old Mitch Miller records?
No. He hadn't been born when I was sitting in a toddy pot. Well, I don't know, but no, Peter, Paul, and Mary weren't around when I had mumps. Was this before you went to school?
Oh no, I was probably, oh golly, 5 or 6 years old.
Oh,
probably
really
right around
old,
the
yes.
kindergarten. Yeah, very elderly.
But at five or six, you knew where your passion was taking.
Well, I can't say that
miraculous.
I really knew that it was music, but I knew that.
Your mother knew.
My mother knew. I knew that I was different. I mean, I knew that what got me excited were more creative things rather than the drier things.
I'm going to ask you to read that.
You're going to have
piece
to
of
forgive
poetry.
me. I'm getting over a wee bit of a cold tonight, so if I cough through the
And I'm beginning one, so all kinds of things in common. I think I don't have the artistic ability, but would you mind reading that piece of poetry?